Welcome back to the 90s Rewind. That was Oasis with Don't Look Back in Anger. And my guest this evening is Gordon Burns, broadcasting legend. We've spoken about your news career. But of course, by the time the 90s started, you were already presenting what I would refer to as a national institution. You were the host, obviously, of the Krypton Factor since 1977. And I think it ran till 95. Is that right?
That is correct. 1977, when my hair was down on my shoulders and my lapels were extremely wide, and so were my ties, right side. But yeah, it began 1977, and the last 18 years it ran was in 1995.
Now, I mean, it was quite a format. I don't think there's ever been anything quite like it on television since either.
A friend of mine, a producer, had dreamt up the Krypton Factor, but I wasn't the presenter.
Oh, I
There's
see.
a guy called Mike Scott who did the pilot program that impressed the network bosses, so they gave it a network slot at 7 o'clock in the evening, which is phenomenal. I had nothing to do with it other than I was a mate of Jeremy Fox, the producer and creator of it. We used to go on holiday together with our wives and things. And then suddenly, with about 2 weeks to go, Jeremy told me that Mike Scott had pulled out.
Oh, no.
So he did a lot of current affairs. He didn't want to be pigeonholed as a quiz show host. And how could he interview prime ministers and cabinet ministers if he was a quiz show host? So he pulled out at the last minute.
It's more than a quiz show. This wasn't a quiz show. This was, yes, you had to have general knowledge, but my goodness, you had to be able to do goodness knows how many logic puzzles, and you had to have memory. I mean, let's talk about the assault course. I mean, I dreamed of doing that assault course as a child. I now live less than 5 minutes away from said assault course. That was one of the toughest things on television, surely.
Well, it was. I mean, it was actually tougher to do than it actually looked on telly. But that was up at Holkenbrook near, not far from Ramsbottom.
Yeah. Did you ever get to do the assault course?
I did, and I hold the record on that assault course.
You hold the record? That's unbelievable.
I do. Slowest ever.
Oh, I see. Right. I mean, not that I was doubting your athletic prowess, but I don't remember reading in any of my research that Gordon Burns was SAS trained. But you know,
well, no, I was a cross country runner. I was school champion once, but I mean, I have no head for heights. I can't do heights. So I was petrified all the way down the high bits, where you went over the top of an A-frame and then came down the zip wire from big platform. I was terrified, but I had to do it because it was a gimmick for the tabloids, the Daily Mail and the Mirror and people like that, sent a photographer up to see if the host could do what he asked his contestants to do. And I was told I had to do it for publicity by my bosses, etc. So I did it. I nearly pulled out at the top of the aerial slide. I didn't see how I could step off holding these bar things beside my head attached to a rope and step out into nothing, go zipping down this wire into water at the bottom. And I was actually about to stop and say, I'm not going to do it. And I saw all the cameras being raised to get this. They could see what was going to happen. And they wanted this picture of me chickening out. It's the great headline for the story. So vanity got the better of me. And I just closed my eyes and stepped out and went down it. So yes, I've done it twice. In fact, I had to do it for another publicity thing. But it was a tough course.
But of course, when the Krypton Factor finished, you had I would say, a sort of brief period where you kind of gained cult celebrity status before you began on Northwest Tonight, and you appeared on things like Shooting Stars and making cameo appearances on Noel's House Party and things like that. Was that a time to kind of kick back and enjoy the sort of some of the limelight that you'd had over the years?
Well, no, it was a desperation to earn money.
I see. Right, that's fine. Good, nice bottom line there.
Because I was a freelance, and suddenly Krypton, which was a good earner for me, had gone. And surprise, I did with Scylla.
It's been an absolute pleasure sort of reminiscing with you this evening, Gordon, and thank you very much for joining us tonight. Now we're finishing. It's a kind of bittersweet moment we're finishing on now with your last music choice, because of course you've chosen one of the songs that kind of epitomizes the 90s. Really, you've chosen Meatloaf's "I'd Do Anything for Love," and of course we sadly lost him just a few weeks ago.
Big, powerful performer. I chose that song because I was freelancing at the time, and I was working for a TV company down south, presenting, but we're out and about doing stories around the southern part of England. And I remember having to travel to an old mansion in Hungerford, which is supposed to have a ghost in it. And we were going to investigate, and they brought in a famous, I think one of the tabloid Ghostbuster type guys who came to sort out where the ghost was, etc. And on the way, it was near Hungerford, and on the way to Hungerford, this song came up on the radio, and then it just, every time I switched to another channel, they were playing this song, but I won't do that at the end of it. Nobody's ever found out what he won't do. I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. But it just got to me, and it brings me back to this house of ghosts and cold feelings and all the rest of it. But that's what it reminds me. And so every time I hear that song, it brings me back to that. But it is a great, powerful song from a very powerful singer, and just it's great to hear.
And the video was in a very similar sort of house. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Gordon Burns, and we'll hopefully see you again on our screen soon, or on our radio waves soon.
Absolutely not. When I retire, I retire. Would you believe it? But I hit 80 in June, and I stepped down when I hit 70 from Northwest Tonight. So that'll do me. I did a radio program for 2 years and then stopped that as well. I do a lot of media training for big companies and organizations, but that apart, I finished with broadcasting, full stop. Never go back. It's always been my motto.
I will start campaigning for an audience with Gordon Burns at 80 at any time. Thank you so much. This is Meatloaf with I'd Do Anything for Love, but I won't do that.